Hello. I hope the microphone actually works this time. If the music is too loud, just let me know and I'll try to tune it down. Because I changed the knob position on my interface when I was cleaning, and now I don't know if the position is the same. Okay. Music not too loud, I guess, so we are good. Okay. So, plan for today. Totally unplanned stream. So I managed to grab an HHKB Studio ANSI variant from someone in the EU because they hated so much the HHKB that they were like, I don't want this anymore, I'm gonna sell it to you. So I basically reduced the wait time by 1 month because I was actually I actually already ordered from Mechanical Keyboards in the US a unit, and the plan was to have it shipped to a community member in the US, and then he will ship it back to me so that we can do stuff. Okay, so what is the plan for the HHKB Studio? The plan right now. What is the PDF viewer? It's called Drawboard PDF. I think it's a paid app for Windows, but I've found that it's probably the best one if you have like either a tablet or a like convertible one. I used to use it when I was in uni because we had slides and graphs, so we basically had like entire slides, and I used this because it actually has quite a bit of personalization stuff, like quite a bit. They added like a higher tier now, like a pro version with like dynamic stuff and pressure and all of that, but like for the most part it's super robust. A thing that I don't really like is how you can like select text, because sometimes it works but it's iffy. Like if you try to select text, it is highlighted, and you do Ctrl C, it doesn't actually copy. You need to select and then right click and then copy. I don't know if they fixed it. High denses. I can't really see chat right now because it's 1/4 of my screen. So OBS is 1/4 of my screen, so I can really see that. So the plan. So the mastermind plan is to convert the HHKB Studio into an EC board. But then I had a message from a Japanese guy that took it apart, and I realized that maybe, and I say maybe, it is possible that I can manage a Q&K port of the OEM offering. So that's a thing that I'll try to do, and that opened another consideration. The way it's structured is kind of the same as the previous HHKBs. So they have a controller board with the MCU, and then they have a connection to the matrix PCB. In my designs, I usually move the logic on the main board, so that if you want to use that PCB in any other case, you can do that. Here, I realized that the MCU that they use, I was actually working on porting it into Q&K fully with all the features and everything. So I thought that maybe, and just maybe for this one time, I will maintain the hierarchy of the controller board with the MCU on it, and then the matrix board is its own thing. Reason being that it is highly unlikely that this PCB will be used in any other cases, simply because the hardware is not available. And I doubt that someone wants to make a a case for this. Then there's the discussion about patent, because I'm fully confident that I can replicate the slider thing. It is not a new thing. I have no idea how they actually managed to patent it, but using capacitive strips on PCB is not a new thing. It's basically how old trackpads worked. They had a matrix underneath and they calculated the finger position, so it is what it is. So yeah, the first thing will be to convert it to Q and K, and then do the EC conversion kit. For that, I'll go deep into it when we get to the teardown PCB pictures. So I have collected quite a bit of information about the HHKB. I'm gonna show only the things that are publicly available because reasons. Wink. So here it was actually pretty clear, like people didn't notice it right away, that there was indeed a Japanese layout version. There are three product names. One is for the ANSI version, one is for the JIS, and then there's a variant based basically on if it is using the English lettering or the mixed one, so the English Latin alphabet and the Japanese one. And this is merely just the sticker. Now the sticker is not visible from the outside, and I think it's a good thing, mainly for aesthetics. And what they did is they put the sticker inside of the opening of the case. So this is the Sporton Lab report pictures. You can see that the plastic was not final simply because it's glossy. It doesn't really tell us anything other than how the actual implementation is. At first, some people thought that they had a dual USB port, so one here and one here, but then they figured out that that is a toggle switch for the power on feature. I'm not really sure why they went with a proper toggle instead of the single button as the HHKB hybrid. I guess it's for like immediate recognition if the board is on or off, but I think it actually looks kind of weird. I prefer way more the aesthetics of the hybrid line. It looked more clean, so it is what it is, personal preference. Another thing that we can notice is that the capacitive touch areas are delimited by little indents, or actually like bits that protrude outside of the case. I guess it's a way to do it. It's merely just to have like a tactile feel of where the actual detection area is. If I recall correctly, the texture of the entire rim is the same, so that's the only way they can do it. An alternative might have been to change texture in the plastic so that it was either smooth on the detection area and like follow the same pattern as the top where the detection is not available, or do the inverse. So basically have it like more rough or an alternative feel. A good thing that I noticed is that the nipple and the mouse buttons are actually angled at the same degree as the case. That is a thing that I appreciate, mainly because otherwise you would basically catch on the bottom of the nipple when you try to move from the lower row to the higher one. So there's that. The light bar, I'm not really a fan, to be honest. There's a lot of light bleed. I would have preferred if they used a more diffused way, so that it was kind of like an RGB effect. Here it's a bit weird. I guess it follows the design language. Probably having individual LEDs would have been worse visually. So probably a change in plastic would have helped. So, okay, now we have like declaration of conformity and etc. I've found out that a document that wasn't included in the first release was the actual EU certification. They have EU certification. If you go in the HHKB website, if it loads, okay, they have the software, and it's different from the hybrid one, so you can't really mix and match. And it's basically the same as the normal one. Like it's literally the same. Does it work? HHKB Studio Remap tool. It's basically the same as the hybrid one. It only has like the visuals and all of that. It's basically the same. Tool published. Yeah, it doesn't change. The revisioning of the firmware is the same. They didn't actually add any additional firmware for the hybrid. Someone was speculating that maybe they would have had a firmware update to enable more layers on the hybrid. That is totally doable if they rework how the memory mapping is, because they use a low memory MCU on those, and I'm not sure they have enough dynamic memory to actually do that. So, as I was saying, they have certification for the studio in the EU, and funnily enough, the PFU EMA like legal representation in the EU is actually in Italy. It's a very non-descriptive place. Like it's literally a office, an office building in front of a supermarket and a bank. So it is what it is. So I guess they either are planning to enable shipping to the EU, or they will actually offer it in the PFU website. As of now, on the PFU EMA website, they don't have it. They removed the real forces. I suspect they are gonna be doing this in the Rico website in Japan, because they only have 2 variants of the Real Force mech version, so I guess they'll remove that pretty soon. And they are still stuck in Snowland. Anyway. Here, I mean, it's not really anything super critical. one thing that I noticed is that you can change the sensitivity of the nipple through key combination. You have 4 presets, and I know that some people in Japan are actually pretty salty about it, because they said, hey, if you already have the mapping from key presses to values, why can't you just point to memory addresses that we can change in software? So you can choose pretty much as in every mouse. You might have 4 slots for presets. You can change the value, store it, and then you can change on the fly using the key combination based on those values, not pre-made values, you know. So yeah, that is probably just a decision in light of what we wanna offer at launch. I don't know if they actually wanna do anything of that sort though. Hi Clap. We are going through HHKB Studio documents and do considerations about conversion and stuff. And we have a magnificent meme coming from Conical. I don't give a fucking shit what someone from California fucking thinks. Yes, this to be honest. HHKB Studio, MX HHKB drama. And we are going through the documentation. So here we have the very, very nutty for the engineers out there, JAE antenna performance, and the antenna is pretty sweet, I gotta say, because it doesn't use on FR4 antennas. I suspect they wanted to use the super fancy one that NRF uses for the Raspberry Pi Pico. So the like one trace only and force radiation stuff, but that is covered by patent and it's super fucking expensive to get the license for it. So I guess they just went with a volumetric SMD antenna instead. They're not using a on SMD package one, but they're using like properly made like metal antennas that are then hooked up to the aux lines. So here, what they basically do is, instead of counting on the whatever signal they have coming from the board, they need to test the antenna performance, not what the MCU drives that at. So what they do here is they hook up this micro coax cable to a SIGGEN, and you'll see that this is a very fancy SIGGEN simply because they have rigid connections here. And what they do, they inject a signal bypassing some of the impedance matching network, and they only keep part of it. So they will do calculations, and they decided that the first capacitor in the impedance matching network is not needed, and they instead use the 2.4 picofarad and the 10 nanohenry inductor to actually drive the antenna. And what they do is they drive it, they see the return loss characteristic. So here they basically measure how much losses are available versus the signal that you put in, basically. And here you'll see the efficiency based on the spectrum. They actually include the coax cable loss. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less from a testing lab. Here they check the radiation pattern, and the final visualization is this one. You need to do a bit of a work to actually like put the board into the reference system here, because they have the x-axis that is like this, so the board is actually facing this way. So this edge, we are seeing the back on this section. And it'll basically have a representation of how in this space the signal actually radiates. So pretty cool stuff. We can skip this. Okay, and this is the emission testing config. Pretty standard stuff. You'll see that the chamber changes from one test to the other. It's not always equal, and based on what frequency you're trying to characterize, you'll have different surfaces, different instruments, configuration, and all of that. So you'll see, for example, here in the sub-gigahertz, you have a configuration with a lower table, and the antenna is totally different. And for higher radiations, they have a way more fancy detection system. Hello, Bacho. Okay, now we have the PCB. So it wasn't very clear at first to me how the mouse switches were actually mounted, simply because I looked at this and I was like, okay, this is definitely a separate PCB, but I wasn't sure how they were actually connecting it. But then I saw here and here the solder points. So on the main board, they only have a ribbon cable, the matrix, a button that I'm not really sure what serves. I didn't saw anything in the manual, so either I skipped it or I need to double check. So the main board is pretty simple. Here we have the actual controller board with the MCU. This is the MCU. This ribbon cable is for the keyboard matrix. Then those 4 ribbon cable connectors are for the capacitive sensing strips, and this one is for the nipple. We still have dip switches. We now have way more batteries. We have a 4 AA configuration in series. So that tells me that they are not aiming to increase battery life through battery number, but they are increasing the voltage to 6 volts, and then they'll probably doing some conversion somewhere, probably like around here. Because I see a fuse, I see some caps, and that seems like a valid place to check for that. Another thing that I noticed is that the ground plane for the MCU is actually decoupled from the board-wide ground point, and it's then connected through either 0 ohm resistors or other ground loop prevention resistors. Here we have the wireless MCU, and we know that because later we have pictures of it. Here we have a non-copper fill so that the antenna that is soldered here can radiate without the copper fill to interfere with it. This is the nipple board. It reminds me of one used in IBM boards, but this section is way bigger. And I don't really know what protocol they're using. If it's PS2, It's gonna be pretty easy to reverse. If it's not, then I'll need to figure something out. This is the back of one of the capacitive strip. The copper fill using this square pattern is not casual, it's not for looks, but it's actually a technique to drive. This is the drive mesh. So the way it works is there's a paper for this. I'm not really sure I can show it, but basically the way this kind of detection works is you have a drive mesh under the FR4. So imagine this stack up where here you have the bottom, this is the FR4, and this is the top. Here you have a drive line that is always energized, and it basically radiates a field. That, in combination with the pattern on the top, creates sections where loops are formed. Okay, so we have loops here, and loops here. The way you detect if a finger is near it is by basically detecting how the loop changes. So the way this is modeled, here you have a cap, like a capacitor is created, but at the same time the human body acts as a capacitor. So you basically create a coupling to ground, and this loop changes. And based on how close those lines are for the separation and the geometry, you can detect how much the finger position contributes to the change in field of this section, this section, this section, and that is how you detect the motion. In a way, this principle is the same for Topre, in the sense that you have this pad design where here you drive and here you sense, and here you create a cap. The spring basically changes the field, and it helps to, those are the field line. When you have the spring, it basically shorts the field, and it allows the detection of that change as a change in capacitance, and therefore you can convert it into a signal. That is a one position detection, and if you were to have this board with only one of these, this would act as a topper switch basically. So this is how you detect the motion across this strip. If you were to hook up an entire matrix of this, you can create basically a trackpad. So for the nipple PS2, I suspect that is pretty easy. For this, I have no idea what the fuck they're doing. As in, I don't know what protocol they're gonna be using. I'm fully confident that I can replicate this even without reversing, purely using online available white prints. But because of the patent thing, I'm not sure. So it is what it is. Technically, I'm covered because I'm not doing any for sale stuff. But it is what it is. The idea is to reuse as much as possible. First as a challenge, and second because why not? And also those pads are 3M glued on this side on the board extremely well. So if you can avoid to damage or bend this, that would be highly preferable. Okay, so now we are near the wireless section. And we know that because this is a NRF 52820 wireless MCU. Based on this and how the components are placed, I can reverse pretty easily which configuration they're using, if they're using like the internal reference or the external one. The matching network will be of course different. Power consumption, it can be whatever. I'm not really aiming on power efficiency, to be honest. I just want to have it work. And a good thing is that this MCU will have its own firmware in it to handle the wireless stuff. So if I can decode all the possible requests that are sent to configure this, so enter Bluetooth pairing mode and all of that, I can reuse this MCU with the same firmware. I can dump this if it's not read protected, and I can like take a nice nano and flash this dump onto it, and I basically replicate the wireless section and I connect those. Here we have a debug port, so if I can read this and dump, perfect, wireless is covered. This is the SMD antenna, and 1, 2, 3, 4 are the solder points. I'm not actually planning on doing RF stuff. I don't have a spectrum analyzer, and it costs like 4,000 euros, so I'm not gonna do analysis on that. I trust the engineers at the JAE for that. So safety precautions, FCC stuff. I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. Here they basically describe the procedure and how the test was actually conducted. Usual stuff. If you ever seen or received the report for the FCC certification, or pretty much any other certification, basically. Yeah, RF exposure, like this is basically how much energy you're radiating out from your antenna system and how much it will be absorbed by the human body. This is pretty critical in phone applications because you basically have an antenna strapped to your head. So this is actually pretty important stuff. Okay, so considerations for the conversion kit and Q&K and stuff. So trying to find the pictures. There we go. Okay, so I've realized that I was working literally last night on a porting for this specific MCU that they're using. So if I can finish that porting, I have a pretty high chance to have Q&K run natively on this. So it will probably not work right away with Bluetooth, nipple and the capacitive stuff, but the matrix being a simple AF matrix, I can have the board work as a normal MX PCB. I'm pretty sure. It will probably not be a user friendly conversion, as in the average Joe will need to probably open the board to do this. Simply because usually what they do with this type of product is they lock the bootloader so that you can't access it by key combination and stuff. It's not like on Q&K powered boards where we actually want the user to be able to reflash in case of changes or something. So there's no key combination that actually forces the DFU. So either they have some kind of programming port hidden somewhere, or like they use pogo pins to program this, or they actually use the USB port and they force with like tweezers on the production line the flashing procedure. On the old boards, the hybrid, they had those JST SH connectors, and that is how they flashed it, and that is also how I dumped the firmware of the entire professional line. So I'm pretty sure I can do the same here. You'll need a programmer of some sort if the USB DFU doesn't work, but I'm pretty sure I can run QNK in this. They have external crystal. I can write some crystal configs to run at maximum speed probably. So that is covered. The next thing would be to determine how the protocol works for the capacitive stuff and the nipple. For the capacitive, they have a chip in it, but that is a pretty standard stuff because they need to drive it like independently from the MCU. That is simply because you don't want to lock the MCU into driving stuff and taking processing time and cycles away from the actual work that it needs to do. So either they have like a flag or like some sort of SPI interface to this MCU to actually communicate what the hell is going on the capacitive sliders. Same goes for the nipple. I'm not really versed into how the nipple system works, other than some of them are PS2 and some of them use like some sort of protocol for it. I'll deep dive in the Sharktastica website from Admiral Shark and do some research on the nipple while I wait for the PCB. So these two components, ideally I would retain them both in the QNK port and the EC conversion. For the wireless, again, if I can manage to sniff whatever the two of them are talking about, I can replicate that communication because they don't know who is who. Like, they know that this is the main MCU and he's the wireless one, but they probably are not doing any sort of checks if I'm injecting commands or anything else. So that is an advantage, you know. For the QNK, I can reuse this PCB. I count on reusing this PCB actually. For the EC, I'm finding myself on a weird situation because I wanted to use this MCU on a prototype for EC. So now I'm thinking, okay, what is the best course of action? So do I want to basically replicate this and add all the analog stuff that I need and leave it as it is, or do I want some kind of system where the MCU is on the main board? So the idea initially for the EC series was to have the MCU on the main board and not the controller, because I can then reuse the main board in other designs. Or if someone wants to do a case for it, for whatever reason, they can do that. And that has actually come in handy for a lot of projects. For example, Type B uses a variation of the EC Pro 2 PCB, and then we had changed some stuff. So that reduced the development time. Here, I'm probably not going to be worried too much about how I'm doing the design to be portable to other designs, simply because I'm not counting on anyone to do a case for it or reuse this PCB, and also I'm not even sure I'm gonna release it publicly. So I'm thinking to do basically the same design as this. Although, because the assembly is so fucked up, I might need to do more PCBs than them. As an example, this PCB has 5 connection points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those match with this silver pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the main board and the controller board are coupled together and their distance is mandatory. It is mandatory because they rest on top of each other. It's not like on the hybrid series where they are decoupled. So because the MX option and the EC option are different in the height stack, if I maintain the same plate height, this PCB will sit lower, and therefore even the controller board will sit lower, but that in return will misalign the battery, the power switch, and the USB port. But conveniently enough, on the USB port, the most critical thing, they have the same alignment system as the hybrid. So what I can do is make the smallest ever USB PCB that basically takes this bit and maintains the USB position. Okay, then I do the same for the power board, and I cut away this section, and same goes for this, like this, so that I also retain the battery compartment. Okay, I will have slim connectors that go from this and this to a main board of some sort, either a main board or the PCB, like this main board. Why? Because that way the critical positions of this that cannot be changed are fixed. Then all of this, I can do that either on the main board or using a similar system on a daughter board that I mount on the main board. Here I have way more space than I'd ever need. One thing that I might have to do or include is different length of ribbon cables, because those are precisely meshed to align properly. But if I don't have space here, for example, or here or whatever, like to maintain kind of the same alignment, then I need to move them around and have custom length cables. The dip switch will be gone because again the height will be different and they don't make sense in a Q&K powered PCB. The main board will sit lower, that is for sure, because the plate assembly, it is top mounted and the plate is removable, so that is a good thing, because then I can just take that outline, make it easy, and add my screw points and roll with it. One issue that I see is the nipple. The nipple is coupled to the plate via some screws. I saw that in the lightning stream. So if you also like open the HHKB near the GHB cluster, you have 3 screws. So those 2, then this one, 1, 2, and 3. Those 3 screws, I think they are a sandwich system. So basically, I'm saying basically way too many times, I'm sorry. So this is the PCB, and this is the PCB. Actually, let's make it blue since it's blue. This is the PCB of the nipple. Okay. So it's this one. Okay. You have then the topper housing. This. Okay. And like this. It's not on scale, it's not perfect in any way. So here there's the like pillar of the nipple. Here's the nipple. You have 2 screws, and those are the plated ones. And then you have 3 more screws. The way it works is under the track point module, you have a plastic retainer that basically squishes everything together. And the way this is all like sandwiched together is you have screws from the plate. There are 3 of them, so 1, 2, and 3, and those are placed like this, and they screw into the retainer under it. How about the interference there? I think there's enough space. Here we have way more space than we need. Here I think we have space. On the subject of mouse buttons, this is a separate PCB. So the funny thing about EC is that you can totally hook up a MX switch to an EC PCB. I've done it in the past, so I basically took the pad design, I added a MX socket, and you can run it because the detection is through the shorting of inducted fields, but you can induce that field by simply shorting the 2 pads. It's not advised if the downstream detection is not properly done, but I've tested it and it works on my design. So ideally this could hook up into the matrix, and you can actually remap them as like enter key, whatever. Okay. An alternative is a separate board that uses short through. It's a fun gimmick. I don't know if I'm gonna do it. So, like, it is what it is. Ideally, I would do normal MX switches here. Probably because of the difference in height, this PCB will not be on the bottom, but it will actually be on the top. So the stack will be inverted. Here I can see probable interference. So the way I'm planning to fix this is either I'll try to do it based on OEM parts, but I'm reserving the right to use China parts and tab parts. For the spacebar, ironically, I think it will be fine because we have so much more space here. But since this uses MX parts, and they use north-facing wires, I've noticed. So the wires are actually on the top, so they go like this, and even the spacebar goes like this. So what I'm thinking of doing is do it with OEM parts and also reserve the right of using tab parts that can use plate-mounted stabs, because then I can basically just replicate this and roll with it, you know. The good thing about the tab part is that they are either plate or like PCB compatible with normal MX wires. So it's whatever. Like, if I can maintain the same orientation for the stabs, I'm pretty much good. For the top switches, if the normal position of the tab parts like stick out too much, what I can do is hijack a little bit the housing and basically cut away the slim part where the wire is supposed to go. So usually you would have that part on the bottom of the switch, but what you can do is mount it in reverse, cut away that part with like pliers or something. That way you have a very slim version on the top, and that's basically it. The thing that worries me the most is that it will not actually fit, because the bottom side here, it's very close to the bottom of the case. So for that, I gotta see with models if by simply clipping away the like ridges in the plastic to have higher rigidity in the plastic, I can get away with it. If not, I will probably do some kind of like 3D printed like riser, like a ridge kind of addition, where you basically add 1/2 millimeters to the bottom of the case to make up for that small change in height, basically. So that is my plan as of now. And yeah, the PFU Mocha KB, very funny. Indeed, very funny. I know the part numbers of the flat cables, so that is not an issue. The pitch is pretty standard, and if I don't manage to find like exact parts for my mainboard, I can just use some Heroes A1 or like Molex, whatever. They are basically the same. For the nipple, the difference is that now the stack is different in height. So before, the MX plate would arrive like here. So this, the nipple will sit lower. So solution for that is based on how the pillar is connected here. Either I do a 3D printed version that is longer, or I do an insert, because here you can remove it. I can do an insert for this that elongates the pillar a little bit and also makes it compatible with like off-the-shelf IBM parts, so that everyone is happy, you know. I think it's easier to do the addition bit, simply because with that I can print it with SLA technology, and I'll have a way more rigid part than FMD, simply because it's denser, and also I don't have to take apart the nipple, which I'm very afraid that if I do that, I'll mess up the alignment and then the IC will be blur. I don't know what the fuck is going on, you know. That is the easiest one. For the plate, again, the plate is screwed on the top case with some screws, so that is easy as fuck to replace. I bet it's 1.5 millimeter as usual for MX. I can make it 1.2, or I gotta check. Actually, if I wanna do it properly, I would use 1.2 so that I can recover 0.3 millimeters. Because even if NIDS parts, for example, or the tab 1 might work with 1.5, because the assembly is taller, if I can recover even 0.3 millimeters of difference, that can help me. So for testing purposes, I can probably use that plate that it comes with. I can drill holes in it to make it EC compatible. But then I will make like a proper plate, either FR4 or whatever. That is more ideal per se. So yeah, that's pretty much what we are gonna be doing. I'm pretty sure I can dump the NRF. If not, I know someone in Atelier that works for NRF. I can ask to him like insights. It's publicly available info, but if I can save a bit of time by asking directly to someone that knows, I can roll with it, you know. And I'm for sure on my design, if I can decode everything and reuse the same firmware, I'm not sure I wanna do like the proper way would be to do it like this. So have the NRF on the PCB itself and then do the antenna stuff. If I can't do that, a doo-doo way of doing it is by doing a pin strip and hand solder a either like a Arduino or however the thing is called, like the Xiao version, or I can get a nice nano and just solder it on top and use the impedance matching that they already did on the nice nano. And then power it. That would probably have more power consumption than I need and that I can control. But if you want to reflash that with some custom firmware, you can do that. Here you'll need like a programmer with the debug port. On that you can use the USB port. Or I can include a mux on the controller board USB. So like here, I can include a USB mux, a multiplexer, where you can decide to which device to connect to. Either the board, the keyboard MCU, or the NRF for DFU upload. That could actually be a nice idea. Actually, yes. That is a magnificent idea. How would you switch then? Probably a button. If you keep it pressed, it enters like one or the other. Because again, you wouldn't actually like flash this all the time. Like by default, it would mux into the keyboard MCU. For the NRF, you'll need to enter it like sporadically. So either I have a button or something to short, or what I can do is muxes can be driven by GPIO pins. I mean, even a button simulates basically a GPIO pin. What I can do is the same way you have key codes in Q&K to enter DFU mode for the MCU that you're running. What I can do is create a key code that instead of triggering the DFU on the MCU, basically raises a GPIO pin to high, and that allows the switch of the mux. So it would basically disconnect from keyboard and connect to this one. And then at power off, when you remove the cable and you plug it in again, that GPIO will not be high anymore, and the default state will be again the main MCU. Not really ideal. I prefer to have a hardware stuff for switching, those kind of stuff. What I can probably do is like exploit the opening for the dip switch port, since it's already there. The dip switch will not fit probably, or I will not have them at all in that position. But what I can do is like expose two pads, or like more than two. So one is, for example, force DFU for this, the other one is reset the entire board, the other one again is enter DFU for the NRF, one is the mux, like whatever, you know. For the testing purposes, what I will do is simulate this with a nice nano, simulate this with some MCU that I have around, because again, I'm not really relegated to this specific MCU. The code is platform agnostic, especially now that I have refactored the entire code base. Some quirks might be only for this MCU. But like the idea of using this is just that if I have the same MCU for the QNK port of the OEM PCB and then my own PCB, I can just set a flag. The firmware will be the same. That's the funny part, because by reusing the sliders and the nipple and the protocol to the NRF, the only thing that changes is how I drive the matrix. Here I have simple GPIO scanning. On the EC I have analog reading. So it's basically all the same apart from these resistors.
Hello
and
there.
an extra pin. Thank you. Let me open human. I missed it. My OBS is so small that I can't read. Human Mr. Pixel, thank you for the follow. Have you soldered MCU before? Yes. I've used rework stations to remove MCUs and replace broken ones. In this case, though, on the QNK port of the OEM, I will basically either find exposed ports for the flash. This one is pretty obvious. For this, I can't see anything too obvious. So either it's exposed somewhere that I can't see from this picture, or it's like mapped on this connector, which is fine. Alternatively, I can just solder wires directly on the package and flash it that way. And that is why I'm saying that it's probably not novice friendly, this QNK port, but it's basically the same on every other port, especially when you need to force the FU mode. I still gotta like decode what the hell that button on the spacebar does. There's a button here, so if that is the DFU enter mode, oh god, we are Gucci. Either that, or if I can instruct the user to keep this pressed and then with tweezers short two resistors somewhere, that is gold, and I can enter USB DFU. That will be pretty sweet. So yeah, that is the plan. For the testing of the EC stuff, the matrix is normal matrix. I'm not even gonna go over it. For the hardware here, I can take random, like, first of all, I will sniff it, and then try to implement it on a dev board, and then try to hook up individually the modules and see if I receive the same responses. If I do, then it means that I've tricked the modules to think that they are doing their original work. For the nipple, probably there's more of a sophisticated communication between them. I suspect that calibration and stuff is stored on the nipple IC. So I'll need to try and see what configurations it receives. And actually, if I can just find the datasheet of this IC, if it's not like lasered, that's all I need. And that is done. For the NRF wireless stuff, if I can dump and use it in a nice nano, that is gold, because then I can again sniff the communication, re-implement it on the dev board, and that is basically a good testament that whatever is happening on this all-in-one PCB will happen on my all-in-one PCB, and I can replicate the secret of this because they're gonna be for sure using the standard NRF like internal reference schematic. So yeah, then for the connection, this and this will be their own separate PCBs, like small modules, so that you can hook them up to the pre-existing positions. Probably I'll maintain the 4AA battery situation. I can include my own version of the battery thing so that you can use the USB port to recharge the batteries, but I'll have to check if I can embed that into the PCB somewhere, so that either you use like dummy batteries, so like you can buy converters from AAA to AA. So what you can do is basically short the converter, because at that point you only need one like 14 what is the name, 14500 lithium ion battery. That is a like 3.7 volt battery. So you'll have basically like dummy batteries here and then one real one here, just to make the connection basically. Maybe also reverse the right, redraw and move on. Bernie is smooth today. What do you mean? I mean, it's just a fun thing to do, you know. Like, if I can run this with QNK alone, that is pretty much all I want. Even if it's MX, you know. Like, the work is shared, actually. Also, the board that I'm gonna receive, I bought it from someone that received it from PFU. So I'm more keen to like do it like in a destructive slash the timeline can be super fucked way, rather than literally like an hour before I was contacted by this person, because before someone proposed to buy a board for me and ship it to me, and basically it was a donation. So as with other projects that I did where people sent me stuff, they're not that many, but there's an implicit like I create for myself an implicit expectation that something needs to be delivered, simply because by the time they ship it to me, it's gonna be ending up like in the $400+ stuff. Like I appreciate the fact that they give it to me, but at the same time, like, you know, like even if they say they're okay with it, and I know they are okay with it, I don't feel okay with like taking 6 months to do this conversion, even though they know that this is not going to be released or like made into a product beyond the minimum order quantity, and then that's it, you know. Like I had to pay a little bit for this board, but that is mine and I can do whatever with it, you know. I wish I could properly remap my hybrid Type S. Okay, so unironically, the work that I'm doing here can be done on the hybrid too, because on the hybrid they use an MCU that is supported in QNK. I have added support for it in the same branch. They use a custom MCU for the wireless, like they use an embedded module I think, if I remember correctly, that is actually sniffable, because I remember sniffing some data. The MCU code itself is dumpable, so if something happens, you can reflash the OEM firmware. I actually have done that to every single HHKB that I have, because the way they flashed that MCU, like the mainboard MCU, so for context, this one on the hybrid series is literally through a JST connector. Okay, so the way I dumped it is I took a programmer, a debugger, and I dumped the entire flash memory. I also cleared it, like I erased the entire flash. I tried to power on the board and it will not work because there was no logic there. Okay, then I reflashed the entire memory and it worked again. So that can work, and I actually managed to make a like a beige hybrid, like a stamped one, think that it was a snow unstamped. So if I hooked it up to the remap tool, the board was a beige one, but it was showing off as a snow blank. You know, but for that, I'm not really sure I wanna do it right now. Yeah, it's basically kind of the same thing. The way it's done in that fork is a bit old, simply because now QNK merged some stuff here and there. It's doable if you want to do it. It's a pain in the ass though. It's really a pain in the ass, because I know, for example, that at some point they switched MCU series on their HHKB hybrid lineup. It is a minor change, but the memory addresses are different. So if you try to flash it, you brick the entire MCU and you need a flasher to fix it. You can't simply force the DFU to exit. Like it borks everything and you need to erase the chip using an external programmer, because the internal one doesn't know what to do with the memory now. That's the bad thing about repurposing revisions, is that either you follow the revision timelines and you make patches, or you just don't do it. And that's what I did initially with my PCBs. First of all, because I wanted to make PCBs, make them look good, and have a platform, and also because, like, not that I gained too much with the PCBs, but only by releasing firmware I wouldn't be able to do this as a job. So the exposure that I got compensates for the work, basically, in the hope that people will actually hire me to do stuff. An alternative plan that I had was actually to make a Hall Effect version of this PCB, because I am working on Hall Effect stuff. So what I thought about was replace this, same layout, same everything, but with Hall Effect. And the same goes for this. Either I have, like, if I can find a way to make this MCU receive data for the switches, that would be better. If not, I'll do a separate PCB. Most likely the Hall Effect PCB and the EC PCB, like the matrix, will be different, but the main board can probably be shared, simply because my code for the Hall Effect is literally the same as the EC, because they're the same thing. Like, they have drive lines that differ. You need to do like some characterization of the magnets and stuff, but for the rest is the same. I think there's something on Geekhack. It's only for the classic though. It's not for the hybrid. And I can't guarantee that if you flash the thing for the classic, you can like you can flash the classic one onto a hybrid, because again the MCU series might differ and actually the connections internally might differ, you know, so keep that in mind. Yeah, it would be cool. It will probably never be merged, like ever. I don't know what the fuck they're doing over in the QNK server. Like, they have stuff to do. For some reason, the issue and PR section is flooded with, oh, we gotta fix layouts. Like, there are major issues right now with both VIA and QNK because they simply can't decide to how they wanna implement the custom menu stuff, and also they're working on XAP, so like it's whatever. Like at this point, I just told to my clients also, if you're gonna do a EC stuff, EC PCB, and you want all the features, so rapid trigger and the calibration, etc., you need to upload the JSON and roll with it. Because I physically cannot even add the JSON to the VIA for the auto detection. That's the only thing that people care about. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. Let's see. Is there something else to look at? Oh yeah, probably I can go over the project status thing. So basically, I didn't even open the PR for the review because they don't merge it, so there's no point for me to actually open it, you know. Like already PRs took like a month for the Theka to be merged, so let alone if I need to add stuff. I just opened the PR to add ADC support for 2 STM32 series. No one took it. Probably won't even make it to the breaking changes next month for the developer branch merge. And since I have some boards that are gonna coming out that I wanna merge, but they use the new stuff, like the proper way to do it would be to first merge the changes to add support, then merge the changes for the boards that are already merged to align with the new refactored code, and then open a single PR for each and every single board that I want to add. So that adds up to like a dozen of PRs, and I'm not gonna do that. They're not gonna look at it, so cry about it, I guess. Okay, so boards that are in progress. Type B. The current status is we changed the plate material from alu to stainless steel because of the concern of skill issue in screwing in the parts, and also it warps a little bit less, and it produces, in my opinion, a nicer sound when you top mount. On my unit, I have it in like the hot dog mount. Yeah, I mean, we are talking customs, okay? So the tolerances have been fixed, and now we are basically waiting for the menu to pick up the production. Hopefully, to be bundled with the unit that we're showing off somewhere, the black one. Then we have the Dollis EC. So it's a conversion kit for the Dollis from KLC. It fits the original case. It needs its own plate. Because the plate was actually part of the sandwich system, and the plate is now 1.2mm, I notified that to Kevin, and they'll figure out something. But internally it fits. It uses 3mm diodes for the LEDs. They are not mounted on the PCB by default, as for the Max variant, and the user decides if they want to use them or not. The current status is waiting for PCB prototype. The firmware is done. I just need to send it and have a confirmation that on the prototype it works, and then we are done. Then we have the Dolphin 60. This is a sorta in the work. The PCB is done. I have prototypes. Everything is confirmed. I just need to hear back for the plate and the current status of the cases. Type K, PCB work on the mainboard is completed. Firmware is in development because we are waiting for the menu to finish the plate and the grommet, the new grommet, because the EC assembly is different in height. We need custom grommets compared to the MX ones to avoid interferences. That's basically it. And then once I have the PCB prototype with me, I can finish the custom code for the RGB so that it works in the same way as the MX, and that is done. 1.2 is the default plate thickness for EC. Topper OEM style, I should say. Needs can go with 1.5. It will snap in place. Tab, I'm not sure, I don't remember. For the lithium, the PCB received a couple of revisions from the very first unit that I showed off. It has now a wider opening for the two clusters because it's more ergonomic, we found. Firmware is completed. The revision PCB doesn't need an actual prototype for me. It's literally just a spacing issue. So I'm just waiting for GOC to clear the queue so that we can pick this up for the final stages. Then we have the Menhir EC. This is a newly added support. So this is a retrofit kit for the Menhir. It fits in the original case. We had an IC open since like 2 weeks ago, I think. We closed it on Wednesday, if I remember correctly. 2 layout supports based on the spacebar, 2 plate options because you can't have those 2 configurations on the same plate. 1 PCB, it uses the same case and the same daughterboard, and it will be shipped with the PCB, the plate of your choice, and screws. PCB is in the works. It's basically completed. We need to add like stuff to make it look good, and then I'll send it off to the manufacturing so that by the end of the year we'll have those on hand, actually through it. will have those on hand and ship them out. I think he'll get some extras so that he can sell those with some extra cases that they had around. So if you want a man here, EC, this is your chance. Yes, the split spacebar will be using 2U for this configuration because the keys are less than 3U wide. So this is the usual 2.25 and 2.75 configuration, and those have no issues with 2U. What's it called? 2U housings. Then we have the GBay, TID, EC, and MX. This is the project by our beloved community member over in Simon Cord, and we had plans for both MX and EC. Layout support is ANSI/BayAE. The way it will work is by simply disabling one of the keys for the one key config. There's also ISO support, so ISO here and then the 1U, and also SASE special layout where you have the ISO config, but instead of the ISO key, you have a numpad enter, because why not? That layout is gonna be called Simon layout. Here we have a video of the 3D printed prototype, and you'll see that it actually works. And this PCB actually uses the MCU that I ported, so this was the test run actually for the new MCU features. Finally, in progress, we have the long-lasting EC-TKL. This is basically the TKL variant of the EC60. Layout option as follows: HHKB spacing. All layout options are individually selectable, so you want split backspace, you want split right shift, etc. The version 1.0 was the prototype one. It worked as intended, but me and Decoy, because Decoy had some units, encountered some issues with the snappable USB-C. Mainly the snap wasn't as clear as I wanted to be, and being 4 layers, I want to be sure that the snapping is clean. Also, it used the Molex. I'm gonna go back to JST because everyone cries when they hear Molex, so that is gonna be reversed to JST. It will have the usual stuff that you see on a H87 H87 Heine PCB. So you'll have the RGB header, basically replicates the same positions. So you have the JST here, you have the snappable USB here. Here we have the opening for the strips too. We have pin pads for the strips if you want to directly solder them, or another JST in case you want to use a JST wire and don't want to solder directly on the PCB. The dimensions are slightly bigger than the H87 PCB because of the difference in switched dimension, basically. Apart from that, we are pretty much good. Then for the planning stage, the EC980C, this is the final layout support that I plan to do. Some configurations might not be available with spacebar, simply because I have to check for like overlapping of the path. Those are gonna be available, no issues. Spacebar to be determined. I don't have a unit it was my idea that for every PCB that I produce, I would have a case. Not because I want the PCB, not because I want the case and the board, but because I want to be able to test fit the PCB. So I can make the PCB based off key measurements that someone in the community will send me, but ideally I would have an actual unit to test fit. It. Only thing is that I can't justify right now the cost of a 980C. That's pretty much it. So yeah, there's that. And then the HHKB Studio, name to be determined. I have no idea how the fuck I want to call the conversion project. It's probably gonna be HHKB Studio instead of HHKB Studio. Here, I mean, do stuff, the thing that we talked about earlier in the stream. I can probably ask ChatGPT for some weird ass names. I think that's pretty much it. Unless there are new stuff in Conical or somewhere else that we can look at. Group by reviews. I don't have a group by a group by doc. I mean, is it new? I've already seen it. Isn't that the stuff? That was out for ages. I mean, it's not even a group buy. It's basically the one that we saw in the IC. I mean, the international price is super scuffed compared to the China one. We know that the international one is always scuffed compared to China, but this is even more scuffed. Even if I add a 35 VAT, it's still higher than that. I don't like the fact that they use the same exact font and everything for the HHKB Classic inside their cases. Why? Why do you feel the need to do that? I have no idea. So there's that. Let me open group wire stuff. Stream submission. Oh, it's locked. God damn it. Yeah. Yeah, it's the folks stuff. Yeah, I mean, the need of having the same badge and font as the OEM HHKB, it's whatever. This bothers me particularly because it doesn't make sense. So first of all, there's absolutely no connection between having HHKB Professional Classic in a board that doesn't actually replicate the Classic. You have hub support. I know that you can do this, but why? IP infringement moment. China not caring about IP moment. It's literally only that. I don't know what to say. I don't know. again, they are doing this fucked up thing where they don't want to check compatibility with literally OEM offering and all the other. Like, this fucked up idea that me as the user needs to do your job. Like, how the fuck should I check this with measurements? There are literally 3D models, and you have a prototype. You can buy like a $50 board off of Xianu. Like, this fucked up idea that they have that the user needs to do their work for them, it doesn't make sense. And they can't even, like, on their server, I remember them not wanting to say Topper because they were afraid of being sued. And I was like, buddy, like, if you tell me that it's OEM style compatible, you're fine. Even if you say it's Topper compatible, it's fine. You're not doing anything. But then they have no issues cloning the logo, cloning the entire product line here. Like, what the fuck are they talking about? You know? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. This is what bothered me. Not the fact that they're doing EC stuff. I'm all for it. But the random user shouldn't do this. And you know what they're doing it? Because then people will buy the entire kit with the PCB from them. So, like, don't bullshit a bullshitter, you know? We're doing our custom housings. They're custom made from us. No, they're needs. I talked with the reps. They're needs. Stop doing this. The PCB, it's custom. Yeah, okay. And it's using the same BOM as my PCBs. Like, I'm not saying that you need to credit me, because that's not what I want. But don't act like if you reinvented the wheel. So, there's that. No, it's not a big trigger. Like, it's fine. I mean, the PE shit is not bad in and of itself. Like, this is probably an easier way to do gaskets or whatever the fuck they're called. Like the ones that you have, like the 2U ones and then the spacebar ones. Like, this is a cheaper way to do it. You know, it's fine. It works. I don't usually use it because I don't feel like paying for it. You know, but I used it in the what's it called? In a build. They're fine. Like, they generally work in cases where the housing is wobbly or like the plate opening are wider than they should be. That basically adds material that compresses everything together, keeping it in place. So it's fine. Whatever. You know, it's fine. Okay, let's check. ISOGR, it's a buy. Like, don't even think about it. Memes, HHKB, a 1-key keyboard that has more screws than most keyboards. 13 screws, my guy. 13 screws. So, keep that in mind. And by buying it, you'll buy this magnificent PP-shaped PCB made by me. And yes, it's NK rollover for all your gaming needs. Let's check. Do you have a link for that NCR 80? I think either I have one or two, but I don't have the plate for the ISO from Simon. AliExpress moment. I mean, this was out for a while. I remember this. Yeah, I remember this. This has been out for a while. Can I open the pictures? Like outside of this sussy thing? Oh, true that the pictures are like down somewhere. China. Okay, so the PCB is 1.2 millimeter and the plate is like a fucked up 0.7 millimeter. Because I basically had to offset as much as possible the PCB so that it will actually like clamp inside. Sorry, inside of the case. Okay, so if this is the IC that I think it is, you're welcome. Thank you for choosing EC60 as your baseline design. And there's a big as fuck motherboard. What the fuck? Yeah, then there are the EC60 and the Pro 2 PCBs. Which is kind of doo-doo because if I remember correctly, this seller, like, I DM'd him asking for like credit, not because I was pissed that it was selling them, but simply because people kept DMing me, especially for the 60%. They kept DMing me, asking for support and firmware for it, and I was like, what are you even talking about? This is not my work. Like, I can refer you to the original project, but if you added stuff, like, I have no idea how you do it. So, yeah, whatever. And that's why I basically asked him to, like, add this line where there's a clear indication that the project is based off of my work, but it's not mine. And it's not because I want, like, monetary gain from this or anything. He doesn't pay me. He's in the rights of the MIT license. But credit to the original author is required by the MIT license, contrary to what people believe and what people commented recently. They can remove the logo and etc. I mean, it's okay. Actually, it's okay if you modify it, because then there's a more distinct separation between my original work and whatever you modify. But again, I'm not salty because they're not paying me or whatever. It's just that I don't want to be flooded by requests of a support page that is not mine. Yeah, I mean, I can't be bothered. Like, people don't read stuff. People think they know how licensing works when instead they don't. So, whatever. And they confuse my frustration with not being credited with my frustration, like, to have, like, DMs flooded. Like, I'm not salty that they are following the license. I'm salty that they don't clearly state how the project is. Yeah, like, the fact that they say from Ciplot is weird. Whatever. I don't fucking care, man. I have already enough stuff to think about. It is what it is. People don't read shit, so I can't fix them. Let's see. there's something else that we can take a look at. Wait, there's an upcoming Apple event? When? I mean, they're gonna be releasing the M3 chip. And then... Oh no, it's not today. I mean, they're gonna be releasing the M3 MacBooks with the dynamic island and, I don't know, Face ID, whatever the fuck they thought about. It's the same. Is there even going to be a salmon stream? I'm not sure. Announcements. When is stream? I have no idea. Okay, today is Saturday. So should be at 7 p.m. Dubai time, which is so 5. Okay, so in basically an hour and 15. I have no idea what to do in the meantime though. I mean, it will be striked on YouTube right away. I know that. Oh, yeah. So I picked up the Quest 3. Okay, we can do a review of the Quest 3. Give me like 2 minutes that I go wash my hands because I spilled coffee all over me, and we will talk about the Quest 3, and I'll check for the ECTKL extras. Be right back. Okay, we are back. So, actually, we are not back because I wanted to attach the camera, but I don't have a power plug for it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm gonna actually attach the camera now. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Let's see if this works. I don't have the usual cable for power, so I'm basically hijacking the laptop charger. Okay, let's see if I can attach my keyboard. And though I'm probably gonna be using the HHKB. Okay, HHKB connected. let's see now if the camera works. Doesn't seem to be working. Skill issue? Question mark? Should be good. God damn it. Video capture. Video. Okay. There we go. That camera? Poggers. We got him. We got him. We fucking got him. Okay, so, for... Let's change song. Let's change song again. There we go. Okay, so someone asked to check out the HHKB. Yes, I have 2 units without the USB-C on it. So if you needed the USB-C, let me know because I have to solder it. Then I saw something about the HG. Where is it? Someone asked to check the scuffed HG, unless I imagine that. The scuffed one, you mean? Wait, is the chat like to-do? Oh yeah, scuffed HG, there we go. Yeah, so, okay, we're gonna do an unboxing. This is not how the board arrived. It is how I packed it for the, spoiler alert, upcoming raffle in Conical server, because the replacement unit is already boxed by Show, so he agreed to a replacement unit. Functionally, it works, so we were that whoever is gonna receive this in the raffle, you'll be able to use it. It's just that, like, it's slightly scuffed on the back, so, but it's still worth metal, so keep that in mind. Hello? Focus system? No pre-F, I guess. 1 second. I'll enter the AF menu. AF, pre-AF is off, of course. 1 second. Okay, now it works. Okay, so this unit will be going up for the Conical server anniversary in the beginning of December. I'm not sure when the mods are gonna be starting to put out stuff for it, but whatever. So why this is going into the raffle? So in usual China style, even with replacements, there's an expectation of disposing of the defective unit. But since the board actually works, I initially wanted to like post it as like a personal raffle for like 10 USD, and shipping to whoever wins it. But then I realized that Show couldn't actually ship internationally directly himself, and I didn't want to go through a forwarder as it did for this unit. So we ended up getting it through Superbuy, and then from Superbuy they'll ship it to me. So whoever wins this needs to be cautious that the board cost will be completely covered, shipping included, thanks to the mods. And for the sake of transparency, that cost will be comprised of the shipping of the replacement unit that I received, that I already quoted to the mods, plus the shipping of this unit from me to whoever wins it. We've done a worst case scenario where I ship from here to Australia, where usually the shipping prices are super fucked, and as always, they are super fucked. Thank you, Australia, for being such a Western country, but being in the opposite part of the world. Thank you again. Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. Like, I'm gonna be using UPS, do financial wisdom, and I roll with it, you know. So it comes with, god damn it, imagine, man. It comes in this carrying case. Personally, I don't like this. The frame view from the top. First of all, because it's not in scale, and second of all, because I don't like it personally. The case is well done. It's rigid. The edges are rigid. The zippers have a customized logo from Show. The zip itself is quite good. It doesn't like hang somewhere. There's a carrying handle, and from what I can see, it is one of those that probably have like metal inner liners, because here this part is plastic, like rubber / plastic. So you can't actually see visible metal anywhere, but it's nice. It moves side to side because of the ridges here, so nice. So if we open this, on the top you have a zip for a net compartment. Inside here you'll find the rubber fits for the bottom, also silicone fit that you're gonna be using for the red accents. Oh, the white balance is fucked. There we go. So silicone fit for the red accent bits. Here you'll find also a bag with the screws for the PCB to plate assembly, and all the extra hardware to make the fit adjustable. Okay. There's no hex key. At least on my unit that I received, there is no hex key, so you'll need to arm yourself with hex keys. And there are different sizes. The board arrived wrapped in the usual manufacturer white paper, This is an additional layer that I included for the shipping that I'll do. This was the original white paper, so it's the very fine one. Okay, so it's the very fine one. The case has two straps for retention, and the bottom is shaped with inserts for your fingers so that you can lift it up. And it's soft touch. The inside, also this side, is soft touch. So, in the unit that I received, I'm doing a walkthrough of basically what I found when I was opening this. On my unit, I had this screw and this screw, along with the inner alignment pins. There are two alignment pins. We can take a look at them. They were inside of the board. The top and bottom case was screwed together. The plate is pre-installed, and they were dangling around. The daughterboard screws were pre-mounted in their holes. Those were properly secured. But the back piece was in this position, but not having retention by the screws. It was moving around. I immediately noticed then that on the back piece, so this is from this view, okay, I noticed a dent here, 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 some minor defects here and here, okay, also a small dent here, and of course the finish, the red finish, was gone. On the bottom, nothing really to signal. Okay. Hello, focus. I guess we need to go in manual mode. Okay. The bottom seemed fine, apart from two dents here, 1 and 2. Okay. The sides of the case there we go. Okay, the sides of the case were fine. I noticed that the brush effect is way more visible in camera than in real life, and also it's very smooth to the touch, both going the direction of the sanding and like perpendicular to it. Another small defect that I found though is here on the edge. Can I manual focus this? Doesn't seem like I can. Yeah. Kinda. Okay, so here, I don't know if you can really see it, but there's a small dent. But it's very minor. And it's surprisingly smooth to the touch. I would have expected a more rough finish, so this is actually welcome, a welcome surprise. Okay. All the other sides were good. A thing that I'm not sure it is properly designed though is the Kensington lock. So the Kensington lock is designed so that if this is the outside of the case and this is the inside, you basically have the retention clips that go into the case and then they open. so that they basically grab the case like this, so that you can't remove it. But on this case, there's no such thing. The hole is straight, so there's no indentation. So there's no way to actually use the Kensington lock. There's a small gap from what I can see, but I don't believe that with a Kensington lock you can use this. I need to test it. Probably an indentation on the top case part 2 would have been nice, instead of only relying on the distance between the inner part and the top case. The USB port section is good. I really like it. A thing that I noticed is that this piece either is like more tolerant than it should be, but there's quite a bit of a gap here. So again, this might be a scuffed unit by itself, so keep that in mind. On this other side, we have another big dent, another one here, another one here, again here, and here you can start to see the big damage to the top case. You can see that here we have dents. On the top side we have here a big dent, here there's a dent, and here we have chipping, kind of like the stainless steel weight from Gion, where the toolpath was set up sussy and it chipped off. Here we have another dent and a slight chipping on this point. It's a bit hard to see now because of the USB piece. So if we go and remove the back piece, and mind you, this was like dangling around in the case when I opened it. So the denting and the chipping might be because of the piece not being secured. So again, these two screws were inside of the case, along with these two. These two are the alignment pins that basically are held like this on the back piece. So here, and it's super weird because I actually don't think that this piece at this point actually caused the chipping on the top case, because otherwise this is a way finer finish and I would expect to see damage on this one. But there's no denting and no chipping on the edge that touches the top case where the chipping was. So I suspect that the menu, you know? So there's that. If it was the back piece alone, that would have been way better, because this is way cheaper than replacing all of this. But if we go here, we can see, first of all, the two chipping that I mentioned on the bottom. Okay, 1 and 2. Okay. We have some. Hello. We have some damage on the finish here and here, but that I can get away with because it's internal, it's covered. I can live with that, you know. But what I can't live with is this, this, this. Here there's again some chipping that I can't really live with. Also, I suspected there was an error on the entire production batch, and that would have been pretty catastrophic. But on the replacement unit picture that the show sent me, this defect is not present. On the chamfering of the outside and the inside edge, here, they skipped the chamfering. What I mean by that is, if you check for the reflection, it's actually pretty evident if it's out of focus. You'll see that here and here, this face seems to be more thick, and that is because they missed the chamfering here. You see how the light reflects equally here, then here it skips, and then it goes back to reflect. This is because here the chamfer is missing. Same goes for the inner side. It's a bit harder to see. Now you can see it. Chamfer, 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 no chamfer, then chamfer again. Okay, so what I thought the issue was here was the entry and the exit point for the chamfering machine. So the toolpath, basically. Because it makes sense for the board to be chamfered like this. So it goes like this, then it starts to go in, and then chamfers, chamfer, chamfer, and then it goes out. So it might be that usually when this happens is because they designed the toolpath for one end bit, but then they swapped it for another one. So the software keeps the account of the bits dimension and it compensates based on the toolpath. The toolpath might be from this edge all the way to this edge again, so 0, 0 to 0, 0. But when you start the production, you might start with 0, 0, then offset it by whatever the bit dimension is, and then end at 0, 0 plus or minus, depending on the reference, the bit size. So that made me think that something in the toolpath was wrong. Because all the other chamfers are correctly executed. In the replacement picture that he sent me, this is not present. So I think I really got the scuffed unit. I can show a picture of the that side, and show actually was very helpful by sending this picture. If I did this, you'll see that here the critical part, the chamfer is very visible. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there we go. Like the chamfer is clearly there. Okay. So this particular top, a lot of issues. A lot of issues. Like, it was probably an iffy unit. Very unlucky that I got it, to be quite honest. But, you know, it is what it is. But apart from that, everything else seemed to be fine. A thing that I don't particularly like, so those type of screws, I like them. The cone one on the bottom, that is one of those saucy ass small bit dimensions for the hex screws that if you have a JIS versus an NA measurement bit, you can span them. So I'll probably replace those. The other ones are standard. They're fine. Nothing to say about them. We can take a look at them. So, no more screws, you know.
Hello there.
Thank you for the follow, Oraki. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I hope. If not, let me know in chat. So, I managed to unscrew this with a hex bit, so a H1.5, but I'm not sure it's an H1.5 because I don't feel confidence in the bit, so I'll replace those for sure. They need to be cone shaped because the material on the bottom case is thin, and to have a flush finish for the fits, you need to have cone fit, so it is what it is. So we take it out. The plate was pre-mounted on the replacement unit that I'll get. The plate is its own separate thing. Plate basically the same as the S60. Same system, we have still the opening for the cap. Screws now are bigger than M2, so if you have a Pro 2 or a Pro X series PCB, you'll need to enlarge the holes. Sorry about that. An M2.5 bit will do the job. Don't worry about cutting traces and etc. If you drill directly on the hole, you'll be fine. And those that ask me to do it on their units, they'll be fine. The bottom piece has two Phillips head screw for the daughterboard retention. Okay, normal stuff. You have an extra space for battery, from what I can see. We have, good thing for those who need it, opening on the inside part for dip switches on the OEM PCB, but they are covered by the back piece, but you still have access to them. The the bottom piece is very interesting because it's at an angle. Oh, I'm noticing another scuff that I didn't pick up here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a hit mark where the finish is off. Apart from that though, I can't seem to find anywhere toolpath markings.
Hello there.
Very nice. That is very nice. Thank you AKE Jojo02 for the follow. So I'm a big fan of machining marks. No machining marks here, probably for the better with the color. On the SS, I wouldn't mind it. And this piece is very interesting because if you look, this part is flat, then you have a lip here, and there is a slope that starts from midpoint and it goes up, and then you have all the inner carving for the motherboard, battery, whatever you want to use. This piece, there we go, is very, very well done. It's not warped, it's not bent, and every single edge is chamfered. So USB, even the guides here are chamfered. On this part, the lower one, I don't seem to feel a chamfer, but it's more like a machining finish thing. Same goes for this and this. But overall, like, nicely done. Of course, on a red unit like this, every single scuff will be super visible. More so than on a mirror finish, I feel like. On this, scuffs can be hidden quite a bit, simply because how the light interacts with the strips and etc. Like, it's easier. On this, it's very obvious. On the mirror finish, unless it's a very deep or a scratch, you'll probably not see it so much, unless you have like a big source of light that creates a block of light, of reflection, and then you can see their defects in the reflection. The plate, I think it's stainless steel. Should be stainless steel. Doesn't feel like alu. The coating is nicely done. The cuts are well done. The threading is well done, and there's not much of a excess material that you get when you hand tap them. So that is very good. It means that they reprocessed the threading after they actually done the initial passing. So yeah, this is the unit that one lucky member of the Conical Discord will receive in the server anniversary raffle stuff thing. I didn't build it mainly because I just want whoever gets it to enjoy the process. So the way the like alignment pins or whatever you want to call them works is you have a thicker and a thinner part. The thicker part goes in the top case, then you take the top piece and you align and rest, then you put down the screws and you start to screw in. Yeah, like, I know that vibration can undo screws, but the way I tighten them now, it's not too much, it's secure, and there's no way that this and also the two bits were inside of the case and this not moving. Like, I don't know what happened, but for sure those two were not tightened together. That I know for sure. Yeah, so this is the unit that a lucky member in Conical Weirdstreet. And actually what I will do is pack the board and never open it again until the lucky winner gets it. There we go. Can we rig the raffle? To be honest, I don't even know how they're gonna run it, so... I just DM'd Mod and told them, hey, this is the situation. Can we do something about it? And he said, yes. Would you be okay with waiting instead of running this 4th of October, running this in like mid-November, in correlation with the server anniversary? And I was like, yes, I forgot about the anniversary, so that sounds like a good idea. Show was okay with it. In terms of like proving that I was disposing, quote unquote, of the board, and at the same time he didn't like coupled the disposal with the replacement send out. So there's that. So as you can see, it's tightly wrapped, double wrapped actually. There we go. And you're done. Okay, I'll grab the quest so we can look at it and then I'll come back. Okay, we're back. So, quest 3. It's cool. For the technology that it incorporates, it's not super expensive. You can get away with the base model. You don't need the 512 gig. Controllers, they're quite good. The triggers are of a nice weight, especially these ones. They're not super heavy, and it's a good thing because otherwise you'd need to use more more muscles than needed. They are supposedly like intelligent or like touch sensitive stuff, and I think what they mean is that they must have some kind of capacitive stuff going on, because when you pick them up they like light up sometimes. Here there's like a button, an LED that turns on when you pick them up at times. They have a strap. The strap can be removed, and also the batteries that they use are AA batteries, so pretty standard stuff. The joystick, probably quite small. Compared to an Xbox One, it's relatively small. They are textured on the side. There we go. The option button and the meta menu button here are flush with the top case, and they are slightly concave. The A, B, X, Y buttons are like normal buttons. They feel okay. They don't make weird noises. They're not squishy. Same goes for the triggers. The press down of the joystick can be quite plasticky feel, and by that I mean that you can kind of feel the plastic layer of the collapsing metal dome inside. To remove the battery, you press here and the entire side pops off, and here you can, by sliding this, remove the strap, and you can replace the battery. It comes with like some random brand battery. The system is quite interesting because the spring is quite strong, and rightfully so, because since you're moving this around, you don't want to hear or move this battery. So it's nice that they have a quite strong and heavy spring there to keep the battery in place. To close it, you simply slide it in. This is the other one. Same concept here. So those are quite nice. On the headset itself, I don't have the Elite strap or whatever, this is the standard one. You have on the right side an headphone jack. On the left side, the USB-C port for charge and PC connection. And from what I can see, this is unusual. Usually you have the headphone on the left. And that is quite clear if you try to buy like VR focused in-ear headphones that have way shorter cable than usual, because they basically have a shorter connection from here to your left, and the right side is longer. The cable is longer. You have speakers embedded here and here, and they're quite nice for like in-body headphones. They get quite loud. Here you have the power button Here there's one of the many cameras. Here you have a rubberized wheel that you use to control the distance of the lenses. Over here we have 3 contact pins for the recharge base, along with a volume button. Another camera. Here on the top, from here to here, there's an opening that corresponds with the plastic matching, and this is where the hot air comes out. Quite nice design. Here you have IR cameras, 2 more cameras, and then here you have the time of flight sensor that it's basically used to map your environment, and basically it's used by the algorithm to keep the stuff that you place in the 3D world in place, even if you move in the space. So you can decide to have a window that moves with you, or you can place a window here, then you can walk here and the window still is there and it's projected. The inside is interesting because you have like a presence, like proximity sensor. You have your 2 separate lenses, and this time it uses separate displays, not a single display. Here you have like a protective cover that is made out of rubber, and on both sides there we go. On both sides you have like a small push button and holes where there's a white dot to indicate which position you're in, and that controls the distance of the face piece, so this to the lenses, based on if you have, for example, glasses or whatever. I found that, at least in my personal case, the vertical position of the eye severely impacts how clear I can see the text. It seems like the meta engineers thought more about the alignment on the horizontal plane for the readability of the text, but I found that more than readability of text, the horizontal positioning helps me eliminate the perceived lens effect. As in, if I try to focus on something that is quite close to my face in the 3D view, if those are not properly aligned horizontally, I see the slight curvature of the lens, and that tells me that I'm focusing too close, and then you start to get motion sickness. Vertical positioning is way more important. I've found that for optimal view, my eye is not centered like here, but it's slightly under it. And that creates a problem for me with the normal strap, because you can angle them quite a bit. But to be honest, an angle so high towards the top makes zero fucking sense. Why? Because the way your face sits here tends to make the quest not be flat like this, but slightly angled like this. So having this angle like this doesn't make a lot of sense, but I would rather have more angle downwards, because then on your face is not squared, it's like this. So you would need more support. If this is the sculpt, you would need more support down, but since this doesn't move too much, you end up reaching the maximum position for this and then counting more on this section on your front to take all the heavy load, and then count on these 2 parts to rest with a lot of pressure on your cheeks. So you'll end up having a big ass red mark on your forehead and 2 small panda marks on your cheeks. So I think either you try to get right away the like elite strap or whatever the fuck it's called, or take one of those aftermarket ones that have like a pivot point here, and you can also have an adjustment here vertically and horizontally, so that basically the hand strap is supporting the headset, but the headset touches slightly to make a light seal, but it doesn't count on the pressure to actually stay in place, you know? So there's that. The way you adjust the tightness of the strap is by moving this like this, and if you move them out, you have more compression. If you move them in, you have less compression. I don't like this. I don't like this because you can't really adjust very well when you want to put them together, but you can overdo when you do this, and I don't like this. Also, strap material is fine, but I found that if you even over tight by like 1 millimeter here, then your head will actually get numb. Like, you will actually block the blood flow circulation, and that is not good. You know, it's absolutely not good. In terms of software, it can be better, of course, but the tracking is fantastic. The tracking of the controllers are super good, and also the fact that you don't only see the controllers, but the display actually creates a 3D projection of a 3D model of the controller. That is very good, because there's also a projection of your hand, and it can detect to which button you're actually in, and if you're pressing or not those two keys. And it's very funny because it replicates the light here, but also adds an indicator, a 3-lever indicator for the battery. So that is quite good. There's also hand tracking, and that works when you have a boundary set up, either a stationary or a room wide. It's good because you can use your hand to tap and move stuff around. So if you have a window, you can grab a window as if it was a tablet, and you can move it in space. You can put it close together to you, move it away. A thing that I don't know if it's a skill issue of me or not is I have no way to move in a linear way the windows if like I want to do it either with the controller, with like the sticks, and not moving it in the space. Because sometimes if I am, for example, at the table, for whatever reason, the display makes the time of flight sensor think that there's more space than there actually is, and therefore the default position, the midpoint where the windows are displayed, is through the monitor or through a wall, and you can't even reach them. So in order to drag them closer to you, you need to snap to them, pull them, snap, pull, snap, pull. So that probably can be fixed. Pass-through is fast, not in real time, but it's very damn close to it. The exposure compensation is not super fast. At times you can see where the frame rate drops to save, quote unquote, the pass-through function. If it gets to a point where a light source is not available or it's too faint, you will exit pass-through mode, and hand gestures will not work. A hand like recognition will not work, and you'll have to rely on the controllers. To access stuff with the hand, you can access the menu and the option by simply doing this. So you face your palm and you do this. and then you can tap stuff around. If you open a keyboard, the display is like this. The keyboard pops up like this. So it's basically like if you were sitting at a table. It's very nice. For games, I've tried the baked one. Super cool, super fun. Beat Saber, it's Beat Saber. I have yet to try like PC VR, so just this running from the PC. So I'll need to do that. But I think it's pretty cool. The battery is not amazing as of now, and even the meta engineers know it, because they released a firmware update, the version 59, with more power saving features than actual features. So you can select now the display to be turned off after like a minute, and you can also, this is actually quite good, you can select dynamic resolution rendering. So the center point or a small portion of the FOV is at a higher resolution than the peripheral view. So that basically saves on render time. Pretty cool. The battery definitely needs to be optimized. Some third-party straps have battery attachments, and even those are getting eaten away pretty fast. So I think it's a power management thing rather than the actual power consumption. So that definitely needs some rework, you know. Apart from that, pretty cool. Pretty fucking cool, I gotta say. Pretty cool. In pass-through, distortion is definitely visible at low light situation. I don't know how the fuck people can actually read their screens. I can sort of know what the fuck I'm doing, but I definitely cannot read the Saturday, October 28th. That's impossible. Let alone try to read my watch. No way. I don't know how the fuck people can do that. I can't. It is what it is. But it's cool to be able to see what you're doing in color, in real time. That is super cool. It's definitely an interesting thing. The time of flight sensor, game changer, I gotta say. I remember when the first VR headset, like commercially available, was available. I remember using it at a demo at Cisco, where they basically, it was pretty fun because they recreated the Unix file manager, like the 3D file manager, in a VR environment, and I was super tripped out. With this, you could probably create the same simulation and literally walk among your files. So that's pretty cool. That's definitely an interesting thing. I didn't try the metaverse, like the Horizon stuff. It's full of homophobes and kids, so like I have no intention of going there, to be honest. If I can continue with my Beat Saber and watch YouTube, it's good. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Very cool, actually. To remove the straps, you simply like peel, and you can remove them. Pretty cool. Interesting stuff. I'm not sure I'll be able to 3D print anything that goes here, and I have the confidence that it will actually hold. So yeah, for that, probably a first or like third party with proper injection molding stuff would be better, simply because the way it holds together, at least from what I can see here, is by having ridges that connect. Like I saw Jarvis. I don't know if you guys know him. He worked at I think Patreon. It was, yeah, it worked at Patreon in SF, and then he went for YouTube and other stuff. He spent an entire week in the Meta Horizon stuff. Like there was basically no one, and those who were there were like super creepy. So it's scuffed. I gotta say, it's super scuffed. I don't know if I can stream it with this. Probably I can. I can show you the pass through. I can probably set it up right now. The app is cool because you can take pictures of what you're seeing and then use the phone to actually get them. Super cool that. Cast Quest 3 to PC. Cast screen with MetaQuest. Live. There we go. Okay, so I need to download the app. Oculus.casting, I guess? Oh, I gotta log in on this shit. Fucking hell, man. Yeah, I don't like the fact that you need an account to do stuff. I hate this. It sucks ass. Fuck this. Probably it's better if I move away. I don't even remember my stuff. No, I don't see the email, man. I don't see it. Okay, we got it. We got it. We got him. We got him. Okay, so I removed my headphones. So I'm putting on the headset now. I'm adjusting the strap. Okay. I'm turning on, I can't see shit because I don't have the pass-through enabled yet. It's pretty damn cool, I gotta say. The brightness of the displays gets very high, 400 nits I think, or even more, I don't remember actually. But it's super cool, like it's super fucking cool. Okay, so it says open the universal menu, go to camera and then cast. Where the fuck is the camera? Camera, where's cast? Cast. Computer, next. I think I'm doing this right. Yes. Okay. Oh, this is super cool. Okay. So I'll try to move away because now you'll be able to see the displays. It's super fucking cool. So this is what I'm seeing right now. Okay, those are my hands. You can see with the live, the delay is pretty negligible. And count that this is a see-through from in real life to the headset, then from the headset streamed over my Wi-Fi network to the PC, and then from the PC to OBS and shit, you know. And as you can see, I can't really make out the text. Like from here, I can't. From here, I can't. Sorry, I can. And yeah, don't worry about the code. Like, I'm already logged in, so get fucked. It's super cool, man. It's really super cool. So here is how the hand works. It is highlighted the one that you have active as a pointer. So there's a pointer. You'll see that based on how I'm moving, there are like a couple of like thingy that basically like they are used as cursor to actually select if you're not tapping. So you'll see that I highlight based on where I'm pointing. Okay. But another thing that I can do is if I want to open and close the menus, I can see the hands and I can pinch and the menu pops off. Okay. I can reopen the menu. I can move the menus in my virtual space. So right now I'm in stationary mode. So if I go here, I can grab the view. I can move it like here. And if I move, it stays there. And if I go back here, it stays there. It's super fucking cool. The projection thing that I told you, you'll see that even if I am in a dark situation, you see the controllers, but because there's a projection of those controllers on the actual in real life controllers, random bugs, you'll see that is not a projection now. As soon as I pick them up, there's a projection of my fingers where I'm selecting and if I have the fingers on the triggers or not. There are then like light beams and I can pick up stuff, move it around, even like over there. I can do this, pick it up and bring it down. Or I can do it with my hands. I can go here, do this, I'm standing up now, I do this, and I leave it there. And it's super fucking cool. Yeah, I have chat here on the side. I can then pick this and move it like this. Poof, poof. I can place this screen on top of another screen, and whatever is beyond the plane of this screen, it's not see-through. And it's super cool because this means that I can do this. It's super trippy when you have objects that go through your view, because like this, my eyes can't figure out the focus plane. So what I have to do is either this or bring it way in front so that it's flat here. Okay, but it's super cool. You can close, you can do it like this, and you can go into apps that have like a big mode. So I hope this is showing off YouTube. I don't know if in the projection you can see it, but there's a red dot that signals that the camera either from the outside or like the casting is working. And again, one fun thing, this is the Quest 2 controller projection, and it's not the Quest 3. So now I picked up the other one. I can move the big screen around, and it stays there. I can click to recenter. Okay. Okay. I can scroll through this. If you open a video, yeah, take your IT stuff. Okay. If I pause, I can see stuff here. Here, suggestion, big whip moment. If I use the thumbstick, I can make it super fucking big. Like I don't know the dimension, or super small, and it's god incredible. The audio is super good. The audio is really super good. If I try to type, here you have this overlay. If you try to type on the Quest OS thing, you have the keyboard. To exit the app, you press the menu and it pops up an overlay in your 3D view. You can move this too, so that when you close the menu and you reopen it, you can either have it here, or if you set it up in a way that it pops up in front of you, you can do that too. You can quit the app, and it's super cool. Show Simon stream. I gotta see if I have it somewhere. Wait a sec. Let me stop the casting real quick so I can log in. So I guess it's Twitch. So where's the casting thing? Okay, computer, next. So now I think I'm casting. Yeah, I exited the casting thing. Now it should be back. Again, I need to move it because otherwise I can't see my screen. Okay, so this is a virtual window. So now what I can do is do this. Oh, sometimes in low light, it thinks that you're still holding stuff or moving hands, even though you're not. So the available light in real life highly impacts how much you're actually seeing through the pass-through. Okay, so I can move this here. Okay, and I can tap things now. So I can tap Twitch, I can scroll Twitch. Okay, and again, I'm not touching anything. If I wanna search, there's a keyboard that's angled, you know? And it's super fucking cool, man. It's super fucking cool. So, B-L-A-C, okay. Okay, I can type on Black Simon. I can accept the cookies. Accept the cookies. God damn it. We gotta watch an ad, but you get the point. You know? It's super fucking cool. It's super fucking cool. Cool Penguin saying, I'm being replaced soon. Hi Simon, hi chat. Hi Simon, there's Simon. We can open full mode. And we can actually make it in VR. Like, we can open full mode and it stays there. This mode is a bit fucked up because I don't understand how I can move stuff around without, like, blocking it. you can do funny stuff here. Like the full mode, full screen mode is a bit fucked. What I advise to do for now is simply making it as big as possible in the window, because the window you can move it around. You can move it around more easily than full screen and then resize that. It's super weird. Software integration, whatever it is. And if you move yourself into it, I don't know how well the see-through is, but you basically are going into the stream, you know, like wee. I can literally kiss Ron on stream while Simon is kissing the Ron, you know. This is super fun. This is super fun. It's absolutely like, it's crazy to me. Like this see-through, a refresh is like instantaneous. There's a snap of a finger delay from the view that I see in see-through and the stream that I'm watching. Like, it's that good, you know? You wouldn't probably drive in this. I've seen some people doing like bypass and put the detection of the AI system in the car in this, and then see through so that they can see like the detection boxes and stuff. Nah, don't do that, you know? But even the hand tracking, like, it's super good, and it tracks the fingers, you know. It's super cool. It's super cool. And as soon as you pick the controllers up, it goes into like controller mode, quote unquote. The monkey type? Oh. Okay, one thing, the detection of the keyboard is a bit fucked. And I think it's because of lighting condition. And also, again, because there's a plane, at times it doesn't actually recognize that there's an object there. Especially when you're not in mapping mode, but you're in like boundary, like stationary boundary mode. It positions stuff there and good luck moving them. Like this, it's probably in the air. But at the same time, if the window is too close to you, if you move your hands like this, at times the detection of the grabbing feature glitches and you move the window involuntarily. So, and also I don't know how deep I'm typing. You see? And also, it seems like only the index finger picks up. See? It picked up as if I was dragging stuff. It's super weird. Like, it's good if you wanna scroll and stuff, but it's not really ideal for like doing this. It's super weird because you can totally do this, but see, again, as soon as it detects this, it goes banana. Okay. Custom. Okay. You can connect Bluetooth peripherals to this, actually. So I can probably connect the HHKB and do the monkey type. And also, you can use the fingers as a pointer. But it, like, in the keyboard is slightly fucked because you don't have space to do that. basically. So bruh. Bruh. Shit. There you go. 17 words per minute. 100%. There we go. Boom. Boom. Yeah, like the movement of system UI stuff, in case the detection and the tracking doesn't work, is still an obscure thing to me. So for example, here I can do this to make it basically go into my face, or like do this. But you see that here the tracking works fine because I have light, okay? But if I go here, it glitches because first of all, it's in the peripheral vision, and second, there's not enough contrast, okay? And also, let's say I'm watching a YouTube video completely in dark, and I open the menu, so this one, like the home menu, and I want to move this window. If it's completely dark, for some reason, even with the controllers, I can't do this. And this should work always. Like here, the window is moving even though the controller is out of my vision, and that's because it basically tracks the first point, and then with the accelerometer and gyroscope, it basically creates a like quaternion data for the tracking. But sometimes in total darkness it doesn't work. So again, small quirks, but it's fine. You know, one thing about this browser, if you go into another tab, whatever is playing here, it doesn't work. I have no idea why, but it is what it is. Can someone tell to Simon in chat to kiss the Ron so I can do a meme? I'm not logged in. But yeah, it's super cool. Like the fact that I can go in there like this and move it as if I'm picking up stuff. It's so fucking cool, man. It's so fucking cool. It's so cool. Like, it's amazing, man. It's so fun to use. It's so fun. We gotta do the meme. We gotta do the meme. Simon is watching us.
Hello there.
What is the secret thing? I have many secrets. Oh, yeah. There we go. Look at it. Okay, the delay of the stream is super long. There we go.
Hello there.
Super fun. Yeah. We entered the matrix, exactly. And it's super fun. One thing that I can try, let's say if you can reset the view, so that is pretty fun. There are some games in the browser that are actually quite fun. Yeah, it's the Quest 3. It's super cool. And unironically, the
Hello there.
web games that use the VR are probably more fun than the like real one. So like Beat Saber and stuff. Mainly because the ones that run natively on the Quest without PC VR are like handicapped very, very bad. So if I go like in the middle of the room and I'm sitting, probably I should like turn on. There we go. So now the tracking would be probably better. Okay. Like, there are games here like this. It's basically awesome. You know, it's literally awesome. But you have like actual songs. And if I move, I can like look around. And it's super fucking cool. It's super fucking cool. Oh, we gotta find a name. And anime. Where's anime? Where's anime? Where's Scooby-Doo? There's Scooby-Doo. Let's go with Scooby-Doo. It's super cool. You gotta pay very, very close attention to where you're actually drifting, where you play. Super fucking cool that you can create like a virtual environment where you're actually doing stuff, you know? Okay, now it actually glitched because I'm still in the view. You'll see that I'm going outside of my boundary zone. It's super weird. And the game is not exiting. Back to menu, I guess? Okay, it glitched. Nice. We found the glitch finally. Oh, probably because I'm casting. Okay, so this is a nice, fun thing. I'm doing stuff, but it doesn't work. What if I force the power off? Yo? No. So we are fucked. Okay, so let's shut down. Okay, so probably now casting is off. But yeah, like it's super fun to use. Like it's actually super fun to use, man. Like it's incredible. Like even standalone, it's a very pleasing experience. It's unironically very good to use. The comfort is not amazing. If you can get like the like Bobo VR, whatever the hell the name is, that probably will be nicer in the head. Well, I don't have money to get a Apple Vision. Like I want to try it, but I barely managed to get an HHKB Studio that is $329. Like, I don't have the money for that. Like, unironically, I don't have the money for that. It's like 3.5K. Plus tax, it's gonna be like 6 grand here. Like, it's impossible. Yeah, so 3.3K. Actually, no, it's more than that because this was old as fuck. Okay, 3.3 plus tax, so 22%. So okay, so it's 4K. Then you can add like $20 of CIA, like the artists and shit monopoly tax, plus whatever surplus. It's gonna cost a ton, man. No way I'm gonna get it. Unironically though, the Quest 3 is like a nice thing. Yeah, 128 is completely fine, man. Like, let's see if I can check how much space I have from the app. Yeah, like, unless you have like a ton of games stored locally, you don't need it. Or if you put like files onto it and then you play them from the file viewer. Like, if you use it for Beat Saber or whatever else, like, it's gonna be fine. If you use PC VR, Steam VR, whatever it's called, then you don't need to care about that. I don't have a long enough cable to actually test that, but it would be pretty funny. Yeah, the native games are like... What shits do you get? I mean, there's not really a brand of candy that drives me crazy. Actually, I have the perfect candy. Be right back. There we go. Like the fritzy one, the sour one. They're super good. All of them. cherry ones are fire. So, first in place. Then, this one. After that, the gummy bears. After those, there are like weird animal shape. So this is cherry, like normal cherry. This is kind of like strawberry, but it's not really strawberry. It has like a weird taste. Strawberry and cherry. I love strawberry and cherry. They're so good. No. I closed the music. There we go. I don't know what we can take a look at. Let's check Discord. So, salmon cord, nothing. What about conical? Nothing new. Nothing new. I think we're gonna wrap this up then. Yeah, we will shitpost his chat. Okay, raid message is gonna be. Let me prepare this. The raid message is gonna be: have you ever thought in VR? Question mark. You should try. There we go. Yeah, this is the right message. Let's go. So, is it the backslash or like, what is the command? Wait. Is it Black Simon and nothing more? Black Simon, yes. Yes, it worked. Okay, so raid message. Thank you everyone who joined today for this totally unplanned stream. I'm gonna go eat more candy than I should. I think I'll see you next week. With the unboxing of the HHKB when it gets here, and hopefully an HG replacement build. Yeah. So thank you again, and see you next time. Bye bye.